Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Pints and Quarts, a show brought to you by the Craft Beer Nation. It is Thursday, June 21st. Half the year has flown by. It's the longest day of the year, so they say, which just means that the sun is in the sky longer than most other days because the day is still 24 hours. That's besides the point. Tonight,
Farmer's Almanac Talk.
Farmer's Almanac Talk, right? Tonight, we are joined by the lovely Miss Jennifer Price. She is of the ATL Beer Boutique. We are very excited to talk to her. I'm sure it's going to be a good time because it's beer. So that said, before we get into the interview, I want to point you to our different social media platforms. You can find us on Instagram at The Craft Beer Nation. You can find us on Twitter at Craft B Nation. Of course, you can find us on Facebook, Craft Beer Nation, and also on Google Plus at, you guessed it, Craft Beer Nation. So my co-host for the night, Freddie Rodriguez, how you doing tonight, sir?
What's good, Randy? All is well over here. Excited to talk to Jen and see what's going down with the Atlanta Beer Boutique and get to know a little bit more about her and what's going on.
For sure. My man Marcus, how you doing tonight, sir? Living that minivan life. How are you, sir?
We just came through with the 2017 Pearl White Chrysler Pacifica.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Kill him.
We're going to be killing them.
But you keep them clean. You keep them clean.
17s, but you know I keep them clean.
You got hubcaps or alloys? I'm just
alloys. You know, we ballers down here in Stafford. That's how we get down.
Yeah, but there's a sliding door closed by itself.
Oh, of course. There's a button you can hit. Boom, both of them open up the trunk. Got the groceries in. Get ready for soccer camp. You know, living the dream.
Last but not least, the star of tonight's episode, ladies and gentlemen, Miss Jennifer Price.
My dryer buzzer just went off. Did you hear that?
No, we didn't hear it. See, we regular people. We gotta do laundry too.
Laundry. It's Thursday.
Yeah. How you doing, Jen?
I'm excellent. Thank you so much. How are y'all?
Doing great, thank you.
Fantastic. Well. I like to say that Jen and I have known each other for 2 years now. We've been social media friends. 3 years, yeah, a good minute. We've been social media friends. We actually met through. I have 3 cousins that all know you.
Yes.
And so my cousin Toki was like, "You should holler at Jen. She's into beer. She's here in Atlanta." So that was 3 years ago, and now tonight is the first time that we've met. So we are internet friends, and we've met on the internet. So nice to finally meet you, Jen.
Same here. Thank you so much for having me.
So we like to start our show off asking our guests this simple question: how did your love affair with craft beer start?
Oh, okay. My love. So the first time I remember ever having a beer was with my dad, and I was probably around 4 or 5 years old. And it kind of started as a ritual between he and I. My dad used to work a corporate job, and every day he came home from work, I'd give him his beer for the day, and he was drinking the champagne of beers.
The High Life.
The High Life, baby. High Life indicator. So he was drinking that, and I just remember him letting me always have the first sip, or if the foam bubbled up off the top of the long neck bottle, I'd get that first sip. And that's kind of where it really, really started for me. It has a very nostalgic place in my life.
So you got hip to the game early, and you be shaking up the beer before you take it to him, so you can get.
No, I knew what to do and what not to do. He had just come home from work.
I'm saying you were trying to get more foam.
Oh, no, I learned how to pour very early. Very early.
I hear you. But you know what? So your dad was drinking the High Life. My dad was drinking Old Milwaukee.
Let me go outside, okay?
my dad was drinking Old Milwaukee. Not Milwaukee's best, but Old Milwaukee in the red and white can.
Yes.
And he still drinks it to this day. To his credit, he'll try anything that I give him, but nothing can replace Old Milwaukee in his eyes.
He wash it down with the Old Milwaukee.
Right.
That's how my mom is the same way. So she, no matter what I bring her, she'll drink what I bring her, but she is a Coors lady.
Okay.
Coors, the banquet beer in the tall gold can.
Oh Lord.
That's her jam, no matter what. Real cold.
So that was your introduction to beer.
Yes.
How about craft beer?
So that came later in life. I went to Florida A&M University. I went to Bethune-Cookman, Florida A&M, and Florida State. But while I was at FAMU and Florida State,
Rattlers. Shout out to the Rattlers.
Go Rattlers. I had an internship in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
Every summer, I was an atmospheric science intern every summer there at the National Center for Atmospheric Research. And that was the first time I'd been around people who drank really good beer. But really good was like Sierra Nevada. So that was the first craft beer I had was a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. And that was probably 1994. And went back to Tallahassee and couldn't find hardly any of that good stuff I'd had out there. So I was in Colorado in the 90s. So it was like the booming microbrewery period of time. So I was drinking beers that you couldn't get anywhere but like in Boulder.
New Belgium. You can get New Belgium out there.
Actually, no, I was drinking it was a brewery called Oasis that I drank a lot of. And I think it was just a microbrewery. And I don't think it's even around anymore.
Was that before the days of Avery?
It was right around the same time. Yeah. Early 90s.
Have you been back to Boulder recently?
I have not.
Yo, if you've never been to Avery, it's a beautiful facility.
I heard it's the Mecca.
So Boulder is just it's one of the most pretty places I've ever been to in my life.
Yeah. The Mecca, in my opinion, is in Mills River, North Carolina.
Oh,
Sierra Nevada.
I've heard about that state-of-the-art brewery that they have. I heard it's crazy.
It's amazing. Yeah. It's an amazing spot, and it's crazy because I think they spent like 173 million on that facility. And it's like when you're driving through this winding road in the woods, and then when you get to the spot, it's like, oh. But so there's that experience, right? And then for like 173 million, New Belgium opened up their spot down in Asheville, and it's a completely different experience.
Right.
It's like Sierra Nevada is where you'd go out there for a date. New Belgium is where you go if you want to like have fun and play cornhole, and it's a totally different environment, but both dope in their own rights.
Yeah, I got to make my way there.
Yeah, you should. Tell them Randy sent you. It won't get you anything, but it'll make me feel.
I'm gonna tell them though. I'm gonna tell them.
So you found love with craft beer in the mid 90s on your escapades to at that point probably like Beer Central outside of San Diego.
Absolutely.
And how did you end up in Atlanta?
So I'm from Atlanta. I'm from Decatur, actually. After grad school, I went to Charlotte, and then I went to Philadelphia, and then I moved back home. And I've been back here since 2006.
Okay.
So it was just time to come back home. Just came back to the place that I know and love, where all my family and friends were. So I've been here since then, 12 years now. Crazy.
So can you talk a little bit about the Atlanta beer scene right now? I mean, y'all got a lot of dope things like Creature Comforts. I guess that's more in Athens, but you got Scofflaw in Atlanta.
It is
Scofflaw and Wrecking Bar. I know they're not a brewery. Well, they're a brew pub. They're doing some dope stuff.
They do amazing stuff. Yeah.
So what's up with the Atlanta scene right now?
It's really growing. It's maturing at a really, I think, manageable pace. I talk to a lot of folks who are like, oh my gosh, there's so many breweries opening. It's going to be saturated. And I'm like, really, pump your brakes. We got like 5 breweries compared to everybody else. Like, seriously. But it's growing at I think a nice pace. There's a lot of opportunity here because it's still one of the fastest growing cities in America. I mean, and it's from breweries that specialize in lagers like Arches to breweries like Orpheus that specialize in sours, and you got Scofflaw that like has the IPA thing on lock, and then other breweries who are doing very interesting things like Second Self, and I mean it's growing so nicely, and it's an exciting time to be here.
Do you think some of that is a result of the direct sales? I think last year was it Atlanta passing?
Yeah. Georgia was we're one of the very last people to pass that law that eliminated the 3-tier system. So yeah, exactly. I think that has encouraged a lot more breweries to come here. The rumor, Randy was talking about New Belgium. The rumor is that New Belgium was actually looking at locating in the mountains in Georgia before they chose Asheville as their second location because of the water chemistry and the environment, but decided not to because at that time we didn't have the laws where you could sell directly to consumers. So we were losing a lot and our economy suffered for it. But I think you're right. The passage of that bill, that new law, has really impacted it.
How has it been? How do you deal with being a woman of color in a predominantly male environment? I mean, I know Atlanta is a very mixed city, but like, how have you seen the change from 2006 to 2018?
Okay, Marcus, it's a very black.
It's real chocolate.
Yeah, it's the new chocolate city. DC used to be the chocolate city.
True. DC will always be. You know what? To be honest, people ask me that all the time, and I think that the reason why I'm not as sensitive to it is because I've always been a woman in the male-dominated field. My major in college was engineering. I'm a city planner. I do a lot of work with guys all the time. It's very often it may just be me, the only person of color in the whole space ever at meetings, and so it's not as foreign to me as I think it may be to other people, but it still is very noticeable because you're right. It is a very white male-dominated field here, but I mean, brewers like Zuri, bloggers, a lot of folks who are influential down here are really working to kind of change the face of what the beer culture is in Atlanta.
Yeah, because like my friends that are black that are into beer, most of them live in Atlanta, or in like the southeastern area,
Mm-hmm.
And you got Down Home Brewing, you got Console Brewing.
They're on the way. Yep.
So yeah, some good things going on in Atlanta. And Atlanta would seem to, in my opinion, Atlanta's the perfect place for to kind of be like the catalyst for more minority involvement in craft beer, because the demographic makeup is there. I know that the beer drinkers are there because I know a bunch of dudes who live. Well, not that I know everybody in Atlanta, but I know that there are a lot of black people in Atlanta drinking beer, specifically drinking craft beer. Atlanta is, even though it has a high African American population, a high black population, it's still a very eclectic and diverse black population. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for breweries to tap into a segment of the market that's gone for a long time underserved.
I agree with you. And there are a lot of people drinking craft beer, but there's still a lot of black folks drinking crap beer. I will be totally honest with you. And that's like part of my mission is to keep exposing people to craft.
Let me ask you this. Do you think that it's the case that black people don't drink craft beer because it's not marketed to them, or is it not marketed to them because they don't drink craft beer?
Chicken or the egg, right?
Right.
Pretty much.
You know what? I don't know. That's a really good question. I think it's because we are not marketed to, so I started out hosting events, tasting events. That was kind of how I got my start here in Atlanta doing beer stuff. And I promise I've converted so many people. Oops. I have lost one. I have converted so many people to craft beer just by exposure. And I think it just may be a lack of exposure, a lack of knowledge, and people just feeling like, is this really for me? And how do I start buying it? Where do I go? It's really easy to drink the stuff and to buy the stuff that we're familiar with. And I mean, it's just easy, but I think it's an exposure thing. I think if people market it to the African-American population more, that more folks would buy and drink it. In fact, like black women are some of the leading consumers of products and goods and services in Atlanta. And about 75% of the folks who come to my events are black women, and which is like mind blowing because you just don't see that. But all in there drinking craft beer, and it's just because of exposure and a lack of it.
I would be remiss to not if we're talking about Atlanta, I got to talk about my man Jason Jones and Hopspot tours. So if you're in the Atlanta area and you want to discover some breweries that you may not have been to, or you want to hit several breweries in one day and not have to drive, hit up Hopspot Beer Tours. Jason Jones, he's doing this thing down there in Atlanta. You know Jason, right?
Oh, I do. So Jason and I are collaborating on an event. So I have a group called Chicks Get Lit. It's kind of a spinoff of my book that I wrote called The Chick's Guide to Beer. So after I did my book tour, I was like, hey, it'd be cool if we did like a beer and book meetup. So I called it Chicks Get Lit. A friend of mine actually came up with that, so I can't take total credit, but she said I could use it from now to perpetuity. But so we're doing a bus ride down to Augusta where there's a mother-daughter pair that owns a brewery there, and Jason is taking us. He does private tours as well. If you're interested in like booking something directly through him, you can do that too. So we don't have to worry about driving to Augusta. He has his bus. He's gonna take us down and bring us back. He's a great dude. So yeah. What's up, Jason?
Yeah, Jason, the homie.
You said you wrote a book. Can you speak more on that? You said it's a chick's guide to beer. Is it just like, hey, this is an IPA, this is a stout, or is there more in depth into? Oh, go ahead.
You mean this?
That is fantastic.
This whole thing?
Whatever do you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. So Jen, hold it up one more time so that people can see it. The chick's guide.
And where can that be bought? Is that Amazon? Is that where? Through Amazon.
It's on Amazon or the chicksguidetobeer.com.
So how do I order one on Amazon and get it signed?
How about
holla at the author?
Yeah, how about you just talk to me after this and I'll send you one. You just Cash App me or Venmo me.
All right, there it is. I like Cash App is life. Yeah. Go ahead to the book. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so I wrote the book. It published last year about this time, and it was really kind of a response to my events and people saying, "Oh my gosh, this was a great event. I'm so happy we learned about pairing, IPAs with food or whatever." And they say, "Oh my gosh, I wish you had something I could take home with me. Where can I get more information?" So I started a blog series actually based off of my events, and then eventually ended up just putting them all into a book. My friend named BJ encouraged me to write a book. And I was like, I write no book. I ain't got nothing to say. But I outlined it. He said, well, just come up with 7 something. So I came up with 7 simple rules. And I did this book, which does, I try to make it very graphic. So we go through stuff like beer styles, and there are like tips throughout the book. That's my emoji, my little avatar.
With natural hair too. I like that.
Yeah. And then at the end is like a journal. So folks can kind of write down the beers they're having, where they had it, they liked it, they didn't. When I first started drinking a lot of beer and trying to learn more as much as I could about it, I bought a beer journal. But I was like, oh my gosh, I would go to my beer shops with like a book and a journal and a notebook, like looking like a total geek. And I was just thinking it'd be really good if someone could have all that info in one small like guide. So that's how the Chick's Guide to Beer got born. And I had a response to all of my lady friends who said, hey, I love what you're doing, but give me more. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you.
So let me ask you this. Did you get any flack from the name of your book? Because I know, like I don't want to say there's a feminist movement, because the feminist movement has been going on for a long time in America, but I know that there are some people who will say something along the lines of, well, why does it have to be the Chick's Guide to Beer? Why can't it just be the Guide to Beer? Did you get any kind of negative feedback along those lines?
Not since you just said something. No.
Wow.
Thanks.
No, I didn't. I've not gotten anything like that. What I've heard most is like, so when is the Guide's Guide to Beer coming out?
You're like, it would be better for a guy to write that.
Did you just throw us to alley-oop?
Right. Should the Craft Beer Nation write a book?
Maybe so, guys. Yeah.
So now you're definitely, you are popping on the Atlanta beer scene.
I guess.
You're so modest.
Yeah.
So modest. You've written a book. What's the next venture for you? I know it is, but I'm just trying to tee it up. I'm trying to tee it up for you.
It's my shop called the Atlanta Beer Boutique. So my goal is to have an actual retail space that where I can sell beer. I just want to sell 6-packs all day, make people happy. And then in that space also kind of carry over the classes and the workshops that I've been doing independently. So it'd be almost like a small, intimate space that focuses on good customer service, a small, carefully selected or curated, as we like to say in Atlanta about everything, a curated collection of beer. It'll have a small market as well, so you can get your proper glassware, coasters, books. You can get maybe some cheeses and some chocolates to go with your stout, or some spices to pair with your Saison and salmon dish or whatever you're making. But kind of like a full service but intimate space where people can buy beer, buy things that go with it, and learn. So I'd be almost like a personal shopper or concierge for people in Atlanta to kind of expand their palates when it comes to beer.
So it's going to be like kind of like your friendly neighborhood, like a little bit of charcuterie, a little bit of this, but I feel like low mood lights, like intimate conversations, like, hey, this is what we're doing. It's kind of like, I don't know, that sounds dope to me. I wish we had something like that.
A true boutique.
Yes.
Yeah, a true boutique. And I borrowed it from the retail space. My sister, Mickey, worked in retail and in boutiques her whole life. And when I was visioning out this shop of mine, I went to her and asked her, what is a boutique exactly? Like, what are the tenets of a boutique? What are, the hallmarks of a true boutique shop? And took that and just translated what people did in retail for years to what it would be like for beer, because I found out very quickly that my key customer, my primary customer, are ladies. It's the women. And I always feel like guys will come where there's a good selection. Guys and geeks will come if there's a good selection, decent prices, and it's convenient, and you have what they want. It doesn't matter, just as long as you have what they want, it's a good selection at a fair price, folks will come. But I want to definitely make it a place where women feel comfortable, especially women who are kind of new to this. And so I thought that would be a really good, unique way to deliver a model that is, I think a little bit different for selling and promoting craft beer.
If I'm a guy drinking Henny and I find out that there's a bunch of women at the ATL beer boutique drinking,
where you gonna be?
I might change my drinking habits. I might, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just saying. But I've seen some of the renderings of your spot, and it looks like it's gonna be really dope. I mean, and also I like the fact that you're gonna focus on. It sounds like you're gonna focus on a really small but very robust selection of craft beer, right? It's not gonna. And I think that's dope. I love going to bottle shops that have small, robust, diverse selections for you to choose from. Maybe things that you won't necessarily, that aren't easy to find. You might only get a case of KBS, but you will have a case of KBS, exactly. Right? As opposed to having 30 cases of Sierra Nevada Pale Ale. No shade, but I'm just saying.
Yeah. I definitely want to focus on local. I mean, I want to focus on Georgia, Atlanta for sure, and Georgia, and then to bubble out from there. So I love what's happening in the South. Some great things happening in Alabama, the Carolinas, Tennessee. And I just want to do almost like a very, very local beer selection. And then the rare beers that you can't get everywhere and the seasonal releases. I'll have a small growler area too, maybe like 8 taps, so that we can have, limited release stuff and very fresh beer, but it'll mostly focus on local for sure.
You guys, in Georgia, are your growlers limited to a certain size? I know Florida for a long time you can only do 32s and gallons, but do you guys have any limits like that in Georgia?
That's how ours are too. Yeah, 32 and 64 ounces.
Oh, Florida was 32 and 128.
128.
Oh,
you couldn't get 64s in Florida for a long time.
You can here.
So you guys can do crowlers.
You can get pints and crowlers here too. Yeah, I was just going to say that. You can get small selection.
You're right, because I went to something Ponce
City Market
Ponce City Market. Yeah, and there's a beer spot now. You can actually go and buy a pint of any beer that's on tap.
Yeah,
they'll bottle it for you, put a plastic top on there, and I thought that was dope as all get out. So
yeah.
And you can walk through the market drinking this beer that you just bought.
I don't know if you're supposed to do that, but
who gonna check us?
I don't think you're supposed to do that, but you
brown paper bagging it through the market.
Marcus, you had one more?
Yeah, sorry, I was yelling at my son who's still up at 10 o'clock. Shout out to my man Jacob.
About it, baby.
Jen, I was gonna say I've never been to Atlanta, so if I had a weekend in Atlanta, I know. If I had a weekend to spend in Atlanta, or like think Anthony Bourdain, RIP, like a couple hours in the city, where are the must hits? Like, where do I go get food and beer? Where do I go get beer to go? And then I have to hit 1 or 2 breweries, and then I got to go.
All right.
Or my minivan get hit.
Yeah, before I got to load the minivan up and get going.
Gotcha. So the closest brewery to and beer shop to the airport would be Arches Brewery. So I would definitely stop there. They actually specialize in lagers. And as you know, lagers are not very popular in the South, just not a style that we brew here because of the brewing conditions that are necessary for that.
Mhm.
But they do a lot of old world lagers. They have a Doppelbock. I mean, who does that? And especially in Georgia, but I love their beer. So I stopped there.
I'd mess with it. I'm just saying.
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
I mean, who wouldn't? Who wouldn't?
Yep.
So you have to stop there. The next stop I'd make is probably at this little growler shop in Hapeville, also called Beer Girl Growler.
Mhm.
And she has just this very small selection, but a local selection as well of beers. And then I would head up to the city, probably to, oh gosh, I guess the next brewery I would hit up, I'm just going to take you to one more brewery. I
Mhm.
would probably go to Orpheus.
Okay.
And that's because I think they do sours very well. And they're right around Piedmont Park,
Mhm.
not far from the Beltline. So then you could hit up some good eats because it's so much good food along the Beltline. I would probably take you to Pont City Market. We were talking about that earlier. You have it's almost like a food hall there. You can hit up a few places. I like Indian food myself. There's a really good Indian street food place there.
There's
And,
a really good place in there that sells like chicken biscuits or something like that, or just fried chicken.
Yeah, as the lines are down the hallway.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah.
Sounds worth it to me.
When I come to Atlanta.
Yeah, well, come on in.
Well, Jen, we certainly appreciate your time tonight.
Thank you.
I need to get. I got family in Atlanta. I need to get down there more often than I do. More than anything, to visit my family, but also to check out the Atlanta beer scene. And I know that you are immersed in the beer scene, and you have some big things going on. And I wish you nothing but the best of luck in your endeavors down there. I hope ATL Beer Boutique becomes like some type of industry baseline, and a lot of people start kind of paying you to replicate your image.
Thank you.
Best of luck. We appreciate your time.
It's an important move that it should have been done a long time ago. It's good that's getting done.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, congratulations. I'm sorry.
Oh,
I was gonna say congratulations on the book and nothing but continued success.
Thank you.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's gonna wrap our show. Be attentive as we announce our next guest. We're still working on it, as is always the case, because these things take work and people gotta get schedules to line up. But we're always working on our next guest. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and be sure to remember, find some great friends, find some great beer, and mind those P's and Q's.
Cheers.
Cheers.